I was a single mother. I ran consciousness raising groups in my home 2 or 3 days a week for a couple years in Cambridge, and have a lot of respect for what that kind of, I guess we call it grassroots, but what that gave, the power that gave to those who seemed more visible and were the leaders in it. I also watched the two other things that affected me. I watched the movement split. Maybe some of you remember. But there were those of us who thought that the feminist movement was focused on basically civil rights for women. We tried to pass the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and failed. We were concerned with women having access to jobs, to political positions, equal pay. And basically, when I look back, I spent that time learning how to make it in a man's world. I pretty much learned to check my femininity at the door when I walked into many of the offices I worked in. I thought the thing we were supposed to do in the 70s was show that we could do what the men did twice as fast and with the baby on our hip. And a lot of us did that. Like many of us, I also burnt out from the terrible way those systems were designed. Other women who were part of the women's movement in the beginning, well, that just wasn't their cup of tea. They weren't interested in that particular struggle. They weren't interested, understandably, in some of the family sacrifices a lot of us had to make to be a full-time employed woman. Many other women use their talents and the power, I think, that came out of feminism to become psychologists, to be interested in personal development, to take an interest in spiritual development. A lot of the goddess religions and anthropological investigations into early feminist spiritual traditions were all coming from this group of women. I don't think they've been acknowledged as much of a force, a collective force, that we were both as participants and as leaders in what became known as the New Age movement. I mean, if you look back, it was led and still is populated by women. How, at this moment in time, do we heal that rift? Because what's needed now is the recognition that it is the deep feminine that is needed in the workplace, and a lot of individual women who have focused on personal development need to know how to get things done in the world we have, in collective and collaborative ways, and it's not necessarily experience a lot of women have had. So that's one of my visions. It's even stronger than a dream. I think that bridges can be built. I think the time is right. I think women have the wind at their back for the first time in a number of decades. I think we have a young generation that is determined to forge ahead. And I think we have a wise elder generation that's been through a lot of this. Many of my people who come to my circles or my teachings fall into two groups, and that is younger women and older women. And I wondered about this for a while until my daughter, who is 43, said those in the middle are just too busy. You know, we're the ones with the babies and the elderly parents and the full-time jobs with our husbands' full-time jobs. It's really hard for leadership to come out of that system now that the economy requires 2 full-time workers for most homes. So I see a coalition between younger women who have not made that commitment about children yet, because it was hard doing it with young children, period. And us older women. Not that Well, we do have more time. I don't feel like I have more time, but I don't have little ones running around. And for me, at least, I have flexibility in my work. So that's another vision for going forward. The third is that after a half century of activism and 25 years working in other countries, being forced by my body, which basically broke down, to come back full time and work in the United States has been very discouraging. It is, I can say with authority, it is very difficult here. Compared to other countries, both for moving a women's agenda, because we don't have the community, the natural community that does still exist for women in many other places. In the developed countries, women have a lot more authority in their political systems, in their work systems, so they have family policies. And Sweden, Denmark, France, they have family policies that enable working women to have their children supported. A lot like the New Deal here in the 1930s and 40s, when we wanted women in the workplace, and Eleanor Roosevelt was sure that there was daycare for Rosie the Riveter, and she had a place to go to pick up meals to take home to her family at the end of her work era, all of which was ended when the men came home. So it's possible. We know it's possible.